A very good morning and welcome to Morning Cafe, this being the 4th of March 2025. 83 days into the year, about 282 days left to the end of this year. My name is Fred Indemuli. Today is International Day for the Truth About Gross Human Rights, and there's a day like that. International. Yeah, speaking of fantastic, the headlines are quite fantastic. Don't trust Raila. That's a standard 3-word headline. We'll back take a look at what exactly. Nani afai ku trust nani?
People daily listen to Kenyans who runs through.
A lot of advice on the front pages today. Alala kazini, ukurasa wa mbele wa gazeti hili.
All right. Taifa leo, alala kazini. Daily Nation, auctioneers target courier. That's the Daily Nation.
All right. Ghost workers gobble billions of shillings. That's the Star. And finally, on the Business Daily, Nigeria farm 6 State House backing in battle for CBK deal. These are just some of the local headlines, and we'll be back to take a look at them in a short while. Of course, today on State of the Nation, coming your way at around 6:30 this morning, Samuel Pogisio, former majority leader in the Kenyan Senate and also a former member of the cabinet in the Kibaki II administration, alongside Dr. Makali Mulu, MP Kitui Central, and Dr. John Kanyuithia Mutunga, MP Tigania West. These are the gentlemen who will be in studio helping us look at the headlines today. Of course, key among the issues being discussed is the IEBC interviews for the 11 people who are shortlisted for the position of chairman. Begin today here in Nairobi. That is one big discussion. The other one is the anticipated trip to the Mount Kenya region by President William Ruto. Yesterday he was to attend church service in Nyeri. He did not. Yes, he ended up going to church in here in Nairobi. Akasema kuna kitu litendeka jana, last minute changes. So what happens to the trip? And we'll be looking at some of the cartoons which suggest that probably the president is developing cold feet. Is he? That coming your way later. Matters regional. And we start off with the East African. No respite in Congo despite a fresh meeting. That's a big headline on the East African. Rwanda and Congolese leaders met in Doha, Qatar, on the back of US pressure, but their pledges for ceasefire fell flat as M23 took another town, signaling continued fighting. So the Congo crisis persists despite the talks. We saw both President Paul Kagame and Felix Tshisekedi sitting opposite each other, and the hope was that, okay, finally, solution, some light at the end of the tunnel. So far, kuna wamechukua town nyingine. Yeah. Right. Aha, Madam President, and I love that picture. President Samia Suluhu Hassan of Tanzania congratulating her Namibian counterpart, President Nesumba Nandi Ndatwa. Yeah. So 2 female presidents. How do you feel? How does this to make you feel?
You know, Namibia has a female president and a female deputy president.
Yes, that's a first. That's a first. Wow. First in Africa, I think even first in the world.
Yeah.
Do you have any such anywhere else? No?
Wakwanza, they're breaking barriers.
Interesting. So yes, Madam President, both ways. Cooking gas tariff blows off in Arusha. Kenya fails to convince the region of the wisdom to tax imported cylinders. Hey, nakumbuka ile promise ya cylinders of gas.
Was it 600 shillings?
Should we really go there? It's only Monday.
Yeah.
That's the East African.
Daily Monitor, Uganda, failed promise. Now they say health centers on life support. Even after revising downwards targets to upgrade 285 health centers, that is ILS, to HSILLS, and build 86 new HCILLS in Uganda, the 2024 Auditor General's report say More than half of the government's health facilities visited were poorly equipped and staffed. Now, with some being non-operational, and they say 41% are the working facility of 54 selected in November 2024, only 22 were operational. Now, money secured to upgrade 285 hospitals and build 86 new hospitals at 2.3 trillion Ugandan shillings.
I think these numbers that you're struggling with, HC2s and HC3s,
Yes.
is the equivalent of what we have level 4s and level 5s in Kenya. So then they have health centers 2s, health center 3s, and probably health center 4s as well.
Other stories here, rainstorm batters Rwenzori region. Huko ni kama kumeanza kunyesha, jua pia iliisha Uganda.
Look at the weather forecast huko.
Yeah.
Because kuna a very heavy cloud storm, especially over Uganda.
In a very, very major destruction there in Rwenzori in Uganda. They say why foreign athletes love life in Uganda. That story is on page 21. That's the Daily Monitor.
All right. Let's cross over to Rwanda, which is neighboring Uganda. Rwanda set to introduce agri-hubs, food basket sites. Also in Rwanda, you'll realize they always have very positive headlines and matters to do with development on the front page. The initiative will enhance food security and commercial farming. But the photo there is of Uganda's Chief of Defense Forces, General Kairenugaba Muhoozi, visiting Rwanda. I don't know why this is big news for you to put it on the front page, but hey, yeah, that's the news on the New Times in Rwanda.
Gazeti la Mwananchi kule Tanzania nasema Tanzania itakavyovuna kuizuia umeme Zambia, na serikali kupitia shirika la umeme Tanzania, that is TANESCO, ipo kwenye hatua za mwisho za majadiliano na Zambia kwa ajili ya kuluzia umeme. Swala hilo limetajwa na wataalamu wa uchumi kama hatua mpya ya kuchochea.
Kumbuka tu ni mwezi jana walikuwa wanazungumzia kununua stima, kununua umeme kutoka Ethiopia. Kutoka Kenya. Sasa wanafikiria kuuzia Zambia umeme pia.
Wanauza, wako nayo kweli?
Jirani yako na stima ya kuuzia jirani mwingine.
Alright. Tutajua. Wameliamsha na Chadema yaanza safari ya no reforms no election. Daktari Slaa atambulishwa rasmi, aomba radhi. Wadau washangaa. Lissu Heche warusha makombora CCM. Wanasema niombe msamaha na radhi kwa wanachama, mfarakano uliotokea kwa sasa umeisha rasmi na kuja kuanza upya mapambano. Niko tayari kwa mabadiliko ambayo wengine hawataki. Hiyo ni Daktari Wilbrod Slaa. Hapa ni 3467 ni idadi ya siku ambazo Daktari Slaa alikuwa amejiweka kando na Chadema hadi anarudi jana. There's so many days, 3,467 days.
Like 10 years. Yeah. Close to 10 years. Now he's back. Lakini wanasema nini? No reforms, no election. Kumbuka siasa za Tanzania zinazidi kupamba moto. Wakingojea uchaguzi mkuu mwaka huu mwezi wa 11 Oktoba.
Makala azusha tafrani, wadau wa mkalia kooni. Masuala ya siasa huko tu bado Tanzania. Na kule juu, uzalishaji hewa tiba ya oksijeni kuwapa ahueni wagonjwa nchini. Uzalishaji hewa, unasema ongezeko la uzalishaji wa oksijeni ya matibabu nchini linatajwa kusaidia kuleta nafuu ya matibabu kwa wagonjwa wa Tanzania. Mwananchi hiyo.
Tukisalia kule Tanzania, gazeti la Citizen hatuna. Sawa, naona, lakini basi haya ndio magazeti ya the regional papers. Yes, we do have the Citizen. Why power export deal could herald a new era. Ongoing talks exploring the possibility of selling electricity to Zambia could lay the ground for much needed diversification of revenue sources, according to analysts. So there's a lot of business and matters economy on the front page of this paper. Global metal giants eye port for continental trade, and inflation, how regions compare to one another. Matters inflation and the main story on page 2 of this paper. So matters business and the economy on the Citizen. Right. So let's come back to Kenya and take a look. Not actually Kenya, because we're going to take a look at the weather situation across the region. We start off with this satellite map, courtesy of Zoom.earth. just so that we see a picture of how the East African region is looking like today in as far as the cloud cover is concerned. You can see how Kenya is very low cloud cover in most parts of the country, a bit of cloud cover when you get to the western part because it joins with this main system that is over the Lake Victoria basin. Now this covers both Uganda and Tanzania. You remember that the front page of the Daily Monitor talks about the amount of rainfall in Rwenzori in Uganda. So any area around Lake Victoria, and you can see it actually extends the northern part of Tanzania up to the central parts of the country. The southern part is fairly dry, but this affects areas of Rwanda, Burundi, northern Tanzania, and southern Uganda. So let's take a look at Bukoba, which is the northernmost town of Tanzania next to Lake Victoria. They do expect light rain today.
Yeah.
Highs of 24 degrees, 25 degrees Celsius. 26, yes. And as far as precipitation is concerned, 6.1 millimeters of rainfall in Bukoba, that's in northern Tanzania. Light rain expected. What about Kampala, Uganda? It's a bit far from the Rwenzori region, but it's 18 degrees. Cloudy today. Chances of rainfall very high, highs of 28 degrees. In matters precipitation, 2 millimeters. So that's as far as Kampala and Bukoba, which are in Uganda and Tanzania respectively. Let's come back home and take a look at Naivasha.
Dust was seen.
Dust was definitely seen.
It's 12 degrees today, feels like it. Rain expected this afternoon and light to moderate rain from around 1:45 p.m. to 5 p.m. It's mostly cloudy today, but highs of 25 degrees expected in Naivasha today. Cloudy, wamesema hapo precipitation here is 0 millimeters.
Wamesema mvua kidogo itakuja. You know, it's important ikuje reduce ile dust because there was a lot of dust coming from the Safari Rally.
Yeah.
Very interesting. What about Marsabit, the northern part of this country? 21 degrees Celsius as we speak, mostly cloudy today. Highs of 29, which is a bit high even for Marsabit. And as far as precipitation is concerned, 0 millimeters of rainfall today, but later this week, probably on Thursday and Friday, they should expect some thunderstorms. Finally, Nairobi.
All right, it's 17 degrees in Nairobi as we speak. Highs of 26 degrees expected today, mostly cloudy throughout the day. A little bit of showers kuanzia sasa hadi around 9 a.m. Wanasema precipitation is 1.5 millimeters, but it will rain at around hapo 3 p.m. kuelekea saa 1 jioni.
And I think that will persist for the better part of this week. Some rainfall expected, light rainfall expected throughout this week into the next weekend, even next week. So Nairobi, mvua kidogo kidogo.
Beautiful weather.
Well,
Wanasema weather for two. Sitishwe.
Okay, I know what you did. So ni sawa sawa. That's the weather forecast for most parts of the region, at least leo tumeenda international, regional.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at the traffic situation in Nairobi. Watu wamerudi Nairobi walimaliza pesa kule Vasha. Saa hii ni mazinga umbwe.
Yeah.
Unaangalia token inalia gari haina mafuta.
Yes.
Utaenda kazini namna gani? So the traffic situation, you can see Thika Road, parts of Thika Road immediately after Ruiru, around KU there, a bit of traffic. Githurai, past Githurai before you get to Kasarani, a bit of traffic there as well. Garden City Mall, a long stretch of yellow, heading towards Allsops, but after that it's smooth all the way until you get to the Utali Drift. This area around Mathare Hospital, it starts building up there as you get to the Pangani interchange. But that's normal traffic for a Monday. But yes, it's still very early. So yes, it's yet to get to 1:15, but you can see the traffic there is really building up. So typical Monday traffic there for guys coming from Thika Road and Kiambu Road. Let's go to the eastern part of the city and we take a look at Kangundo Road. A bit slow today. Usually we see a long stretch of red around here next to Mojawan Market. Right now you can just see spots of red here and there, but it looks like it's building up slowly. Outer Ring Road is smooth. No stretches of red being seen anywhere, even at Feather and Pipeline. Only yellow, meaning that not much traffic is there. Jorogo Road too is looking good. Makadara, and it's smooth all the way. Jogoo Road, this is the best time to actually leave if you're intending to use Jogoo Road into town. Even on this road, areas around Gikomba, Machakos Bus Station, Mudhurwa, they are looking good. Even Haile Selassie Avenue around Marikiti, nothing to worry about this morning. So traffic is new. On the western part of the city, start off with the southern beat, southern bypass looking good. Langata Road, nothing to worry about. Mbagathi Way also is good. So is Ngong Road. And finally, from the western region getting into town, that's Waiyaki Way, ABC, past Lion Place, all the way past Museum Hill into town. Traffic iko nywe. So yes, the only problem we have ni ile ya kawaida pale Pangani interchange, lakini hiyo haikuangi shida. Kama umezoea kutumia barabara, you know what to expect. That's the traffic situation.
All right, let's take a look at the quote of the day.
Excellence is not an accident. It's the outcome of continuous effort, disciplined action, and the cultivation of good habits that sustain long-term success and growth.
Right, turejee magazetini and we start off with the Standard. Don't trust Raila. That's a big headline on the front page of this paper. It's an NIS warning. Yes, siati kuna mtu amesema hivyo, ni NIS lakini pia hao ni watu. After a court ruled that Azimio was a majority party in parliament, ODM began pushing for the leader of majority seat, but a warning from the National Intelligence Service stated that granting this position could empower the opposition party to pursue the president's impeachment. As a result, President William Ruto strategically backed down and opted to offer other key committee positions instead. So kumbe aliambiwa na NIS, chunga sana hapa. Hapa kitakuramba. Don't trust Raila. NIS imesema hivyo.
Yes, na Raila alisema I did not look for Ruto, Ruto looked for me.
Yes, but he wrote a very nice letter to President Ruto. Expressing his commitment going forward to their working relationship. Anyway, our story is on page 4. You can read more details on that. IEBC chair interviews kick off today. That's a big thing, the biggest talking point today. The story is on page 2. So the interviews for the next Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission IEBC chairperson kick off today in Nairobi, with 11 shortlisted candidates facing scrutiny amid legal challenges and integrity concerns. Among them, Charles Nyachae and Anne Amadi. Yes. Even the Kenya Power and Lighting Company board chairperson Joy Brenda Masinde is interested in that position. Former Deputy Registrar of the Judiciary Kakai Kissinger, former Nairobi County Assembly Clerk Jacob Ngwele, and Erastus Ethekon, a former Turkana County Attorney. Those ones will appear tomorrow. Today, before the panel, is a former judge of the East African Court of Justice, Charles Nyachae, former Chief Registrar of the Judiciary, Anne Amadi, Chief Magistrate Abdul Kadir Lorot Ramadan, and Edward Katama Ngeyua, who has been identified as a person living with disability. Those are just some of the people who will be before the IEBC selection panel today. This will be the biggest discussion. You know, these faces, we've seen them too much, but hey, that's the story there. Wanataka Gen Z. Pope returns to Vatican from hospital. That's in the world, page 23. And Welshman Evans wins Safari Rally. The back page of this paper talks about yesterday's game between Harambee Stars and Gabon, where the Stars lost 2-1 at the Nyayo Stadium. Oh, what a painful feeling. There was a lot of anticipation, and people felt like there was a push and excitement that we might have won. But Gabon akombaka na ule jamaa anaitwa Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. They came ready. Uko ndani, because yes, we've been covering the Safari Rally. Welshman and Toyota ace Elfyn Evans and his navigator Scott Martin after winning this year's Safari Rally yesterday in Naivasha. Kenyan rally driver Carl Tundo finished 15th in the Safari Rally. Yeah. All right. Na kuna warembo pale, choppers warembo, dust, magari nini. Hey, bana. Naivasha ilikuwa imeshika. That's actually on pages 30 and 31. Dust was definitely seen. Ndio muone Naivasha kwa weather leo mvua inanyesha kidogo. Right. That's a Standard.
People Daily, listen to Kenyans. Uhuru wants Ruto. That was yesterday, and this story is on page 8 of the day of People Daily. Let's just take a look at it kidogo tusikie wanasema vipi. Uhuru alikuwa anaongea jana kule at a church service. Anasema, listen to the cry of Kenyans. Uhuru reminds Ruto and leaders. He was speaking at the St. Joseph's Cathedral Church in Meru during the Thanksgiving ceremony of the newly ordained bishop, that is Jackson Murigara. And he said leaders should not turn a deaf ear to the citizens. And there has been a hue and cry from Kenyans over high taxation, the SHA, high education funding model, corruption in government, and the housing levy. Anasema Uhuru revisited the sermon of the day that emphasized on keeping on the path of the narrow and straight, saying leaders should embrace the verse as it would help them to remain truthful to their citizens. And the question is, what would Uhuru have done angekuwa in Ruto's shoes today?
Alisema tena yeye siku hizi anafuatilia tu mambo kwa TV na radio.
Mimi sina maneno mingi. Elfie Evans wins 2025 World Rally Championship Safari Rally. Kenya tumesema tulimerge number 15. Elfie Evans. Yes, Elfie Evans won the race that concluded yesterday. That story is on page 28 to 29 of the People Daily. Schools defy ministry on school fees. This is a report by the Auditor General. Wanasema kuna shule ambazo wanaambia parents walipe more than what is required of them. Anasema, you know, schools should be charging for uniforms, vitu ndogo ndogo kama hizo, but not extra fees. And wanasema there are very many schools. Now wametajwa, let's just take a look at them. I saw Mangu, tuangalie list of shame. If you're here, if your school is here, Maseno, that is, we have St. Mary's Yala in Siaya, Maseno in Kisumu, Udhiru Girls in Kiambu, Moi Girls Nairobi, YM Secondary in Mandera, Mary Hill Girls in Kiambu, Sacred Heart Mukumu Girls in Kakamega, and Senior Chief Munguti in Makueni. Hawa ndio wana defy Ministry of Education's rules. Yes. Kenyans put selection panel on spot as IEBC hiring kicks off. It begins today. Tumeangalia pale the standard, 11 shortlisted for the chairperson seats, and I think 105 for commissioner's post.
So the 11 will be interviewed between today and Wednesday this week.
Yes.
That's a People Daily. Let's take a look at Taifa Leo. Anasema alala kazini, nani huyo amesinzia? Miezi minne tangu Murkomen achukue wizara ya usalama, mauaji ya kigaidi na ujangili yamerejea kwa kishindo kikuu. Jana Al-Shabaab walitajwa kuhusika katika shambulizi lililowaua maafisa 6 na kujeruhi 10 eneo la Garissa. Mauaji hayo yanafikisha vifo vinavyotokana na ugaidi na ujahili kuwa 24 katika miezi miwili pekee. Je, Waziri Kipchumba Murkomen amelemewa na kazi? Ni swali tu pale kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa gazeti hili. Wanasema ni kweli, na wameorodhesha visa ambavyo kuanzia Machi jana, tarehe ya jana, kuanzia Februari tarehe 3, machifu 5 wakatekwa nyara kule na Al-Shabaab kule Mandera, na hii ilikuwa ni wakati ambapo Rais William Ruto alikuwa anatembelea eneo hilo. Na akasema anaahidi watarudi. Mwezi mmoja baadaye, zaidi ya mwezi mmoja baadaye, bado hawajarudi. Na wameorodhesha visa vingine kufikia hadi tarehe ya jana. Vidokezo zaidi kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa gazeti hilo. Wanasema Ngirishi sasa amgeuka Rais Ruto, adai rais amekataa kukamilisha miradi ya Uhuru kaunti yake Kirinyaga. Huyu wakati mmoja alijaribu kuwa gavana kule Kirinyaga. Kwingineko kilio Owino Uhuru wapate fidia. Wito watolewa mashirika husika yashinikiza utoaji wa fidia ya shilingi bilioni 1.3. Papa arejea Vatican. Watu walikuwa washaanza kumhesabia masiku. Papa amerejea baada ya kulazwa kwa wiki 5. Hatimaye Papa Francis arejea makao makuu ya kanisa, japo atapumzika kwa miezi miwili. Habari kamili kwenye ukurasa wa 8. Pale juu masuala ya spoti, ndoto ya Harambee yazimwa. Ilikuwa mechi ya jana dhidi ya Harambee Stars na Gabon, ambapo Gabon alilaza Harambee Stars mabao 2-1. Na kwingineko magharibi wataka nafasi ya Kindiki, wataka Oparanya ateuliwe mwaniaji mwenza wa Ruto kura ya mwaka 2027. Imeanza mapema. So nasema but that's a nice angle to it. A deputy president or running mate for President William Ruto from Western Kenya. That's Taifa Leo.
Daily Nation auctioneers target courier. Going broke is the question they ask. Save for a court order or payment of an undisclosed debt. The auctioneer's hammer will land on 2 residential buildings owned by former Trade Cabinet Secretary Moses Kuria. Anyone wishing to wrestle the 2 properties off the hands of the vocal politician, who is one of the president's economic advisors, will have to pay a refundable 3 million shillings bidding deposit to the auctioneer and then square it out with the other potential buyers on April 8. A politician has denied ownership of a UAE registered firm making big moves in the public and private sectors. Going broke? Hiyo ndio swali wanauliza kama the vocal politician, as Daily Nation puts it. Other stories here: huge cost of 7 X-ray PSS revealed. It will cost the taxpayer 66 million shillings a year in monthly salaries for an additional 7 principal secretaries following President William Ruto's recent reorganization of his government. Now, in the changes, state departments will increase to 57 from 50 to accommodate political interest following the handshake between President Ruto and opposition leader Raila Odinga. However, this is bad news for the overburdened taxpayer, as it will increase the country's already bloated wage bill. You know, Kenyans hata wajakuwa wakiangalia this aspect. Wanaona tu, oh, wako na youth now, Gen Zs wako na youth in... Anyway. Other stories here. Pope Francis on the top strip of the Daily Nation. Pope Francis leaves hospital, and the pontiff, 88 years of age, had been admitted for 5 weeks following a bout of pneumonia. And that's another story here, that of Harambee Stars go down fighting in March against Gabon, where we emerged 1. We scored 1.
Yes.
Gabon 2.
But I think it was really impressive to see the huge turnout by Kenyans. At least yesterday there was a lot of support, moral support for our homeboys, the Harambee Stars. A quick look at the Star. Ghost workers gobble billions. About 17,000 are still on national government's payroll. That story is on pages 4 and 5. They also make mention of the game yesterday. Stars down, but players hold their heads high. That's the Star. Matters Business. Nigeria farms 6 State House backing in battle for CBK deal. Yes, I know we have a very clear link with Nigeria nowadays. Yes, and State House. So State House has been dragged into a fierce fight between local banks and a Nigerian firm for the development of a new real-time payment system. Nigeria. Nigeria watulete payment system hapa Kenya.
Wewe unadharau
wewe. Tunacheza na Nigeria. Hapana. Kuna mchezo ingine hataki. All right. Kenya exports to Africa drop for first time in 6 years. That's on the ticker. And betting gives KRA 12.47 billion shillings in 8 months. So it's not for nothing. Those are just some of the highlights on the front page of the Business Daily. Let's take a look at the cartoons. Remember, we'll be discussing these highlights, the headlines, with my panelists, Samuel Pogisio, Dr. Makali Mulu, and Dr. John Kanyuithia Mutunga, coming at 6:30. Before that, let's take a look at the cartoons. Ndio tuone ni nini watu wanafikiria. 3 of the cartoons are talking about the mountain today. This is the one on the Daily Nation. Is it the Daily Nation? Yes.
It is, yes.
So it has a mountain there and a piece of a twig coming from the mountain, na kuna vultures wamesimama pale juu. Pale chini kuna red carpet na kuna gari, na jamaa amevaa ile kofia yenye President William Ruto used to wear when he was campaigning. So he's heading to the mountain. The red carpet has been rolled out, but they're vultures and they're all thinking about money. Waleta hiyo pesa. So he's tripped to the mountain, making it to the cartoon on the Daily Nation.
The Star. Matters IEBC interviews in progress. This is a hot seat, and the interviews for this chairperson post begins today. 11 shortlisted. These interviews begin today all the way to Wednesday.
All right. Charles Nyachai amechorwa pale among the leading candidates there. Back to the mountain. This is a standard, and a caricature of the president standing with a background being the Mount Kenya, and he's asking, why am I developing cold feet? This cartoonist suggests that the president is developing cold feet. Yesterday he was to attend church service in Nyeri. Hakuenda. Akasema mimi ni member wa AIC, kwa hivyo naenda AIC hapa Nairobi. Alikuwa ende Nyeri. Is he developing cold feet?
Is he?
They are yet to actually tell us the itinerary or when the date is for the president's trip to Mount Kenya. It is one of the discussions we'll be having.
People Daily still matters a mountain. My unique style of climbing Mount Kenya ni kutembea kwa sengenge.
Na anatumia nini kwa hiyo sengenge? What is a wheel? Shilingi. It's about the money, according to this cartoonist. Anatumia pesa ndio atoke upande hii afike kwa mountain. Now, this is not the only cartoonist anafikiria mambo ya pesa. Hapa kwa Daily Nation. Wote wanangojea nini? Pesa. Sawa sawa. So at least we are clear on what people are thinking about. Kwa hivyo when president goes to Mount Kenya, show us the money. All right.
Later on, we'll be having Monday Blitz from 8 to 9. Innocent Mutiso will be here and Janet Kimani together with Shutterboy and Arocho. The Benny McCarthy era begins. That's what they'll be talking about, Matter Sport.
Yes.
And then later on, you wanted to say something?
Yes, of course, the biggest discussion will be about Harambee Stars' performance yesterday. It was a good performance either way. The number of international players on our team compared to what Gabon has, well, anyway, you're talking about this starting from 9?
Distribution of property acquired by unmarried partners. Sasa kama uko na bestie, uko wewe ni side chick and you
mkarunua property pamoja.
Yeah.
Alafu unakuja kudai.
Actually, you can't die that whatever. There's something that protects you from actually also getting protected and getting a share of what you guys contributed. So that's what we'll be talking about from 9 all the way to 10 a.m.
With the lawyer Paul Masharia, advocate of the High Court.
Absolutely. Meanwhile, interact with us on our socials, TV47 Kenya on Facebook and YouTube, TV47 News KE on X. My handle is at @Ann_Dida. The hashtag is Morning Cafe.
At Fred in the Mulio next.
Our world is changing every day, and so should we, for the better. Each week, we tackle the big why, the question that should be on everyone's minds. Why isn't this fixed yet? Deforestation, global warming, and the adverse effects of climate change. The future isn't just something that we inherit, it's something that we create. Join us on The Green Fix as we tell the stories of those who refuse to give up. When it comes to fixing the planet, there is no time to waste. Join me, Shiksha Arora, on Thursdays at 9 p.m. on The Green Fix as we look into the big why, you and I.
For comprehensive information and education on your health, Body Garage is here.
Don't allow anyone to pluck out your good tooth as long as it is strong and stable.
Cancer doesn't start today and you get the symptoms tomorrow. By the time you pick it or the time it is manifesting in you, probably will be there about 5 to 10 years.
The eye is the window to the rest of the body.
Don't forget to stay hydrated.
And of course, you at home, do take your water.
So the ultimate test is actually you check your urine. Your urine should be clear.
Clear like the water.
Yes. Should be able to see the other side of the urine. If your urine is colored or has changed color, you cannot see the other side, then you have not taken enough water.
Don't forget regular health checkups. Early detection saves lives.
I want the message be, we can prevent cervical cancer. We prevent cervical cancer in several ways. You have young girls and even somebody who's above that age, you can pay at least every 3 years. Somebody should have a pap smear done.
If you are 40, 45, 50, going upward, once a year, please go see a doctor. Yeah, it's just for normal routine maintenance.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Jiunge nasi tunapoangazia safari za viongozi bora. Kutoka kwa ushindi mkubwa hadi masomo magumu.
Wakati wetu kwamba wasichana si wa kusoma, ni wa kuolewa, ng'ombe ipatikane, wazazi wakuwe watajiri.
Tunashughulikia yote.
I wish I were a better investor.
My parents taught me how to look for things for myself.
Tazama Mfahamu Kiongozi, ambapo kila kipindi kimejaa maarifa, mikakati na hadithi za kukuza azma yako.
For me to succeed, I have to fight.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30.
President William Ruto is scheduled to tour the Mount Kenya region 5 months after the impeachment of his former deputy president Rigathi Gachagua. The head of state met legislators from the Mount Kenya counties at State House, Nairobi, Thursday last week in his pursuit to woo back the region. Among other topics discussed during the Thursday meeting were infrastructure development, affordable housing, fresh produce markets and revitalization of agricultural industry in the areas of coffee, tea and dairy production. In a quick rejoinder, the former DP on Saturday evening convened a private housekeeping meeting at his Wamunyoro home with his allies, believed to be a counter of Ruto's area visit next month.
Ile kazi serikali inafanya saa hii ni ile serikali ambaye Uhuru Kenyatta aliacha, ambaye hakumaliza. Zile barabara zinatuma tulie kama watu ya Mount Kenya na Kenya mzima. Ni zile barabara zilianzishwa na serikali ambayo ilikuweko.
I have evidence, I can table it anywhere, that our government through the Ministry of Education is denying our children to benefit from the Ministry of Education kit ambayo inafaa ifikie watoto.
Gachagua, who has been actively working to forge new political alliances with the Azimio la Umoja opposition coalition, aims to make Ruto a one-term president by disclosing his former boss' tricks and what he calls lies. In Saturday's Wamunyoro meeting, sources says Gachagua's allies endeavors to highlight Ruto's promises according to his manifesto in the run-up to 2022 general election, disclosing completed and stalled projects to tackle his move.
President akisema ifanyike, inafanyika. Inapitishwa na inaletwa bunge, tunapitisha, inafanyika. Ile Uhuru alisema ifanywe, ndio inafanywa saa hii. Alafu unakuta kiongozi anakwambia ati ni haki yenu kufanywa kazi.
And that is a serious issue that I want His Excellency the President of the Republic of Kenya to address with the immediate effect. Before akuje hapa Central, akuje kama ametuambia nani aliblacklist watoto wetu, ni mashule gani iko affected.
Public Service Cabinet Secretary Justin Muturi, however, said he will not accompany President William Ruto in his upcoming tour, highlighting that it was not his norm to follow the head of state unless the engagement directly relates to his ministry's mandate.
I don't just follow the president. Even when Uhuru was president, it was never my practice or habit to follow him wherever he went. Because, you know, as a president, he has, a schedule of work. I also have a schedule, my schedule of work.
This also comes a week after Deputy President Kithure Kindiki hosted a meeting of 54 members of parliament from Mount Kenya region at his current residence in preparation for a week-long tour. Ruto's Mount Kenya development tour marks his first visit since the impeachment of Rigathi Gachagua. Mike Kagwango, TV 47, Nairobi.
Yes, it is definitely the big talking point this week. The anticipated trip to the Mount Kenya region by President William Ruto 5 months after the impeachment of his deputy, Rigathi Gachagua. Good morning once again. You're definitely on TV 47. This is Morning Cafe, State of the Nation, a look at the headlines. My name is Fred Indemuli. Allow me to introduce my panelists this morning, starting on my left, Samuel Pugisio, who has served as Senate Majority Leader in the 12th Parliament and also as Cabinet Minister for ICT in the Kibaki II administration. It is always a pleasure to have you in studio, sir. Karibu sana. Alongside Bwana Pugisio, we have Dr. John Kanyuithia Mutunga, MP Tigania West. Bwana Mutunga, karibu sana.
Thank you.
We are also privileged to have Bwana Makali Mulu, MP Kitui Central. Karibu sana.
Good morning.
Yes, gentlemen, if you look at the main cartoons today, we had 3 cartoons, the People Daily, the Daily Nation and the Standard, all talking about President William Ruto's trip to the mountain. A lot of activities taking place last week in preparation for that. It is yet to happen. Yesterday perhaps would have been the very first time he's going back to Mount Kenya region. The president was set to attend a church service in Nyeri. He did not. He said that something changed at the last minute. And the cartoon on the Standard appears to suggest that the president could be developing cold feet. There's a caricature there of the president asking himself, why am I developing cold feet? Bwana Pugisio, let's start from there. Of course, it's not easy for the president to go back to Mount Kenya, given the last time he was there attending a church event in Embu. That did not go down very well. 5 months later, it is not going to be easy for him to go up the mountain.
Well, we are at least able to see that from the cartoon. The cartoon is portraying, some kind of cold feet developed. Cartoon is portraying President almost sweating and completely lost in his own thoughts. It can be easy. It cannot be easy for the president to go to Mount Kenya. Telltale signs have been there that it's going to be difficult. And so with all intelligence, advice and so on, you got to be slow. You got to be careful. You don't want to completely ruin the chances. So yeah, he has, I think, been told probably. Yesterday was a very important function in Nyeri. It really required that he attends. But did you see that the same event happened in Nairobi of installation of an ACK bishop and an enthronement of it was called installation enthronement of ACK bishop. That's my own bishop, actually, of Nairobi Diocese, the new bishop, Jonathan Kabiru. And they expected the president to go there. And so, but because, again, that's the day when Ole Sapit, my archbishop, declares that politicians will not be welcome to say things here. And so maybe the president also took that cue from there to say, why am I going to a church where I cannot speak? Why don't I go to a church that gives me opportunity to speak? And that could contribute to the reason he didn't go to Nyeri. However, it's generally been difficult for his representatives to gain access to Mount Kenya. And so using that as a follow-up, you would say maybe until you can see signs. There have been talk about using money and using other influences. It has been very difficult. Yeah. It's not easy. So I guess he has to be careful enough to halt and careful enough to take time to say, well, until I'm sure, I'm not going to take the risk. It can backfire on him. However, I think also that then he has an opportunity to just go to the presidential lounge. Lodge. That is at Sagana River Lodge, and go there and call everybody to come. And so it's possible to do that and just come home instead of the usual tour. But the president will feel that is a bit of defeatist. And so I do actually feel for the president and his team. They have tried everything they can. I would also just recommend that the people of Mount Kenya should actually just welcome the president, because if he's going to do development or bring development to those areas, why not? They should welcome him. They don't have to accept his politics, but at least you can lock out the president. He's the president of the whole country.
There's been no indication that there's any rejection or locking the president out of the mountain. Bwana Mutunga, the president hosted a number of MPs from the Mount Kenya regions. Of course, those allied to him last week at State House to plan for this trip. Not much details have come out of that, still not confirmed on the dates. Now, when he is set to attend such an event in Nyeri and then he fails, that's an indication of some level of hesitation. Do you have any clarity on the future of this trip, the dates probably, and why probably he hesitated to go to Nyeri yesterday?
Thank you very much, Indimuli. The presidential visit to Mount Kenya is planned and the dates are known. It's supposed to happen the first week of April.
First week of April, okay.
So from around 31st to 6th of April, that first of this month to 6th of April. So it is not that he will not go. He will go to Mount Kenya. And about yesterday's event, sometimes changes can occur due to various factors. Of course, the most predictable or presumably understandable factor is that the president is estranged in Mount Kenya, which I don't think is the case. We know about the politics of this country. We know people get polarized sometimes, especially soon after or during the electioneering period, during the political competition prior to elections. And certain places become very difficult to attend. We saw the presidential campaign team being stoned in Kisumu, but now things are very different. So he will visit Mount Kenya. He will come around that time, and we will receive him, and we are waiting for him. There is no, the people of Mount Kenya have no other president. In fact, they contributed significantly to putting this administration in place. And therefore, they also need the development. The president carries the purse. In other words, he carries the major decision as to how fast development programs probably can go in certain areas. We have quite a number of stalled projects. Every one of us would like those stalled projects to be restarted.
Okay.
Again, on the other hand, quite a number of our constituencies, or let's say counties, lost a lot in the last administration because we were not aligned to the administration as it were. So we were denying a lot of development. So we cannot say we sit still, keep the president away, and then we also lose another term of development.
But it would appear there are some serious concerns or challenges to this trip. Were this discussed during the parliament? What could be some of the challenges or concerns?
Idimuli, I think one of the factors that is very ripe is this is a political situation in a democratic state. We have a constitution that allows us to do whatever we wish as a country. And therefore, there will be people opposing anywhere you go. The president did not get 99.9% of the votes. He got slightly more than half of the votes. So that's how he became the president. Therefore, the other close to half of the Kenyans were opposed to him. So even if there has been a lot of, trying to bring people together under the broad-based government and a few other efforts, there are still people who oppose this administration for various reasons. And some of them are very valid. Others probably are just born out of the emerging other associations. So in this particular case, we cannot expect a politician to go anywhere in this country and lack opposition It is not possible.
So that's the biggest concern, that he would encounter some level of opposition in the Mount Kenya region.
No, but the president has had opposition all over, and he has always visited every part of this country.
Yes.
So it just depends.
But you do agree that this is,
how are the numbers?
This is part of the serious concern.
Is normal.
Wanamakali Mulu, Wanamutunga is non-committal on that, but it must be one of the biggest concerns of the president that he might encounter some hostility to some level.
You know, Fred, if I were in the shoes of the president, I would still behave the same. I would develop a cold feet. Why? A couple of points. The first point is what Mutunga has said. Mount Kenya contributed in a very big way to the win of Kenya Kwanza. But what have they gotten in return? The first reward to them in return was get their son, who was a deputy president, kicked out of the government. The second reward they got in return for their loyalty and support to the Kenya Kwanza government, get their sons and daughters removed from the cabinet and replaced with the people who never supported Kenya Kwanza government. The third thing they got in return, get their sons and daughters removed from committee chairing in parliament and become normal members in committees. The fourth thing they have gotten in return, a lot of promises for development, which were never fulfilled. So they are saying, we have no problem with the president, but before he comes to us, can he have very good reasons as to why we voted for him this much, but he gave us very little in return. Even thing, he made lives for them very bad by doing what I've enumerated. The other thing is, the president was in Embu. The last visit he did to Mount Kenya was Embu, when he went for installation of another bishop. You remember?
Yes. What
happened in that meeting? You saw. So the president being a rational human being, I don't expect him to go to a meeting where you are addressing people from the podium, but the whole crowd is shouting, Ruto must go. And it is Ruto addressing them. You can imagine where you are in such a situation. So I'm imagining the president has to take a bit of time to think through the trip to central Kenya. The other thing is we have NIS also, which must also be advising him what is happening on the ground. Last week I was in Mount Kenya. We went with my party leader to Laikipia, and then we passed through Nyeri and back to Nairobi. And I can tell you, Mount Kenya is totally a different place. We couldn't believe what we were seeing. People are so much unhappy with this Kenya Kwanza government that you would imagine somebody has been killed as a result of what is happening. So I'm just saying, really, the president will have to visit central Kenya, but he has to be equipped with serious information and goodies to convince central Kenya that, and we're not talking about the future, we're talking about the past. You know, they voted for him, so they are saying for the next 5 years, irrespective of where we'll be voting in 2027, we need to be rewarded for our votes. And I think really he has not been able to achieve that. And that's why you can see he's developing cold feet.
All right.
And don't be surprised, when though the dates are set, don't be surprised things could change. Maybe postponed. I say things could change.
All right. If you look at the other cartoons, the cartoon on the People Daily and the cartoon on the Daily Nation as well. The one on the Daily Nation has some vultures who are waiting for money. As the president, the red carpet is rolled out, and sticking from the mountain is a twig with vultures on top, and they're all thinking about the money that's going to come. The other cartoon is on the People Daily, and it sees the president riding on a barbed wire, meaning there are hurdles, but he's riding on the shilling to Mount Kenya, meaning that the goodies Wanamulu is talking about, these goodies might actually, they may be expecting some instantaneous goodies, not necessarily promises and plans. Do you think the president has no other option but to use this route, the unique style of climbing Mount Kenya, with money, cash?
Yeah. Let me even just ask for a bit of detour on this thing. I wanted to, on the earliest opportunity, take see the story you have on the 4 Kenyans who were killed on the border with Uganda from West Pokot. I don't know whether you saw that story. It's on page 16 of The Nation, that 4 of our local politicians and leaders were killed on a trip to Uganda. And they're all named there, and I know all of them, but I want just to take this opportunity to pass condolences to them before I forget, to the families and friends and the people of West Pokot on the loss of those 4 important people that perished in a road accident on the road to Moroto. And let me come back to the issue of riding a special way. It's going to require a special or unique way to climb Mount Kenya. I think that the president needed to align himself with the right people who have access to Mount Kenya. But if he doesn't believe that there are enough of those people, he will definitely want to use the carrot and stick. Maybe just the carrot this time, maybe there'll be no stick. So take money and dangle the money, and especially cash to the people, and then also projects that my colleague was referring to, stalled projects and many projects that were started there, and the many promises. There's a problem with promises. There's nothing you can do about promises, because if you have promised so many things and you're going back there before those promises are fulfilled, you are likely to promise more before the others are. So it's going to be a very big conflict. So money, this style of riding, can be there as a facade, can be there to cover up, overwhelm the community or society so that they don't ask those questions about the promises of the past, so that they don't ask about the stalled projects and so on. So it's very easy then to kind of throw things into the eyes of the people so they don't see. But it doesn't take long. You see, the problem with some of these trips, is that it's probably just a weekend or a week. Okay, if you splash money for a week and then you come back, after that week, then people open their eyes and the reality is still the same. You're not going to change those people. So it's a very difficult course for the president, unless something very meaningful is planned for a life-changing situation there, that you have something the president is actually going to make happen. If not, you can hear every time the president says something. It's become very commonplace now to just say, uongo, to say, Ruto must go, uongo, those kind of things. So, I mean, you don't want to go there and be told that we don't believe you. So the president better even start sending engineers, builders, whatever it is that he wants to do there, so before he goes, so that there is no issue of saying, we doubt you. The president has to deal with that thing which I keep talking about, called the trust deficit. He must deal with it. It is the thing that will clear him or completely block him from some of these places. Why can't people trust him? Why can't he work on reclaiming that trust, or renewing that trust, or regaining that trust? So I do believe that style may work. But as you can see from the cartoon, it's not a smooth road riding. In fact, I think that just like a mile from there, already there's some sharp stuff there. So it's not going to be easy. So and if you make a mistake of not going through, you can see how big the fall is, and the mountain reaching the top. It's not easy to do that. In fact, you must be a magician to be able to connect from land to the peak of the mountain.
Definitely a precarious situation for President William Ruto as he anticipates to make his trip to Mount Kenya region 5 months after his very last trip that turned chaotic in Embu. What will happen? Is he really riding on the shilling as he heads to Mount Kenya? We'll continue with this conversation after the break. You're watching Morning Cafe.
Our world is changing every day, and so should we, for the better. Each week, we tackle the big why, the question that should be on everyone's mind. Why isn't this fixed yet? Deforestation, global warming, and the adverse effects of climate change. The future isn't just something that we inherit, it's something that we create. Join us on The Green Fix as we tell the stories of those who refuse to give up. When it comes to fixing the planet, there is no time to waste. Join me, Shiksha Arora, on Thursdays at 9 p.m. on The Green Fix as we look into the big why, you and I.
For comprehensive information and education on your health, Body Garage is here.
Don't allow anyone to pluck out your good tooth, as long as it is strong and stable.
Cancer doesn't start today and you get the symptoms tomorrow. By the time you pick it or the time it is manifesting in you.
It is a chant that has become the new order in a majority of gatherings since the anti-finance bill protest in July 2024. The same happened Sunday afternoon during a World Cup 2026 qualification match between Kenya and Gabon played at the Nyayo National Stadium. During the heated match, Mumias East Member of Parliament Peter Salasia would be chased away from the stadium before the arrival of the President and former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. Away from the pitch at the African Inland Church during a church service where President William Ruto was in attendance, National Assembly Majority Leader Kimani Ichung'wah had an explanation to give, seemingly responding to scenes such as the ones witnessed at the Nyayo Stadium.
That the biggest challenge we have had is that spirit of negativity.
The Kikuyu Member of Parliament further taking issues with the clergy, accusing them of fueling the current bashing the Ruto-led government has been receiving from citizens.
Some of our church leaders have become judges, have become more of political players. And therefore we sit back and ask ourselves, if the church, instead of praying, guiding, offering positive criticism, becomes political prayers, who then will become the conscience of society?
The president weighing on Ichung'wah's remarks and recently being at the center of criticism over his millions of donations to the church in comparison to the state of the economy, Ruto argued that building churches aligns with his vision for the country.
Tutamwaibisha shetani. Shetani hawezi kutuzuia kujenga nchi yetu ama kujenga makanisa zetu.
Interestingly, while giving his donations towards the AIC Jericho Church, unlike in other instances, Ruto failed to declare the amount of support he will direct to the church. Recently, Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops stated that while church donations will not be rejected, they should be given discreetly rather than as a publicized gesture. Mwege William, TV 47.
Tunashukuru sana. All right. Even as we continue with talking about the anticipated trip for President William Ruto to Mount Kenya, a lot of things are happening, and probably this could be one of the reasons why President William Ruto failed to go to Nyeri. There's a story on page 7 of the Daily Nation. Ole Sapit saying President is not exempt from church pulpit gag. The Archbishop of the Anglican Church of Kenya, Jackson Ole Sapit, has made it clear that the new protocols he announced last week targeting politicians apply to President William Ruto as well. He was speaking yesterday during the consecration of Mount Kenya West Bishop Gerald Mwangi Mureithi at St. Peter's Cathedral, Nyeri County. That was yesterday, the same event that the president was supposed to attend. Mr. Sapit said that the rules cut across the political divide and said, quote, "We have said that even if the president was here, we will still do the same." Incidentally, former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua and his allies were also present at the church. Wanamutunga, it has not escaped our notice that probably this is the issue, that President Ruto maybe realized late in the day that the church was going to be a problem, because we hear his talking at the AIC church in Nairobi that he would still continue donating to the church, na akasema wale wengine watu wa shetani hawatamweza. Could this be the challenge that now is encountering hostility even from church?
Several factors. Number one, a church function is not a presidential function. A church function is very different, organized for different purposes, with a different theme. A presidential function is totally different, organized for the purpose of the president talking to the people. That is the kind of visit we expect in Mount Kenya. Let me dispute the fact that we cannot use the event at Embu as a standard, because first of all, it was a church function. Secondly, they just appeared in this particular function. And all of them appeared, as you may have noted correctly, about yesterday's function. On the other hand, we also are alive to the fact that this country has been struggling over the last 2 years economically. So a lot of development has not taken place. Not because the president did not want to have development go on, not because he has negated certain regions. That's not the truth. The other issue I want also to address is the issue of having dropped a son of Mount Kenya. Did he drop a son of Mount Kenya and replace the son of Mount Kenya with a son from another region? That's not correct. Or is somebody trying to insinuate that Professor Kindiki is not equal to the task? If you asked us as members of parliament, when we were doing the campaigns and when the president clearly said that the running mate will come from Mount Kenya, all of us, most of us, voted for Kindiki because they were the last two. We voted for him. But the president, in his wisdom, decided to pick on Gachagua. So this time around, it is A versus B. If A has decided to go astray, decided not to follow the tune, then we pick the other one, still from the same mountain. And there is no telling that this is not equal to the task. Finally, not finally really, the issue of cash, that those vouchers waiting for cash. Of course, we all know that development has to do with money. And we know how mega functions are organized. There is no dishing of money to a huge rally. It doesn't happen. There is nothing like that. You cannot pay people to attend a rally. I mean, it just doesn't happen.
We've seen instances where people
10,000 people paying them to attend a rally.
Mutunga, are you disputing that it does happen? Not necessarily in Mount Kenya region, but people are paid to attend political events. We have it in good standing that
about
happens.
Rallies. If we have a presidential rally, I have attended many, and I have joined the president many times in some of these. I have never actually been party to it. I've never known it. It has happened in my place. And I've never, dished money for people to come and listen to the president. No, that's not true. Yes, money is important for development. In that sense, the vouchers could be waiting for development in form of cash now being, more aligned to the mountain. The other issue that is also important for us to look at is that development has not completely stalled in all sectors. Some work is going on. And this presidential visit is not the first and the final. This is just one of the many visits that the president will make to Mount Kenya region. So, proper planning has it that you must pick projects that the president would identify with now. And that's the strategy that is being applied right now. Get the projects that the president can identify with as either significantly ongoing or complete. And they are there.
Okay.
So we can, again, we have around 10 counties. Keeping aside Nairobi, Mount Kenya comprises of around 10 counties. These counties, there must be projects in some of these counties. In 6 days or 5 days, the president cannot go to 10 counties. It is not possible. So you'll go to a few, and then where probably we have, and then sometimes after some time, maybe a month or 2 or 3 months, you'll go back to the mountain. And again, go back to the mountain as many times as it is possible. Okay. So let's not look at this as if it is really life and death. And it's not.
And it's good that you told us.
It is just a presidential visit to his people.
And it's good
to identify and clearly tell them
you clarified
where we are coming from, where we are right now in terms of implementation of the...
It's good that you clarified on the dates that it's 31st to 6th. So definitely the event yesterday was not in any way his main trip to Mount Kenya region. But
no, it was not his trip.
It would have set the stage or the tone of his trip in April. Now, the fact that even his former deputy president, Rigathi Gachagua, was in attendance, this would have been probably the second time that the two are in the same space. The last time it happened was in Embu, and we saw how that went. Probably the president was trying to avoid a similar situation that would set the tone in a negative way for his trip to Mount Kenya. That him being in the same room with his former deputy, Bwana Makali.
You know, as I said earlier, the president also gets NIS reports anyway. The national intelligence would feed the president with information in terms of what is happening where. And I see Dr. Mutunga struggling to explain what is happening. But the truth of the matter is, the president is facing serious challenges as he visits Mount Kenya. That's the truth of the matter. I will navigate around the challenges. That is a matter we leave to him. But looking at what happened in Embu, when they were in the same space with the former deputy president, Rigathi, I imagine must have been told that Rigathi is still in that church with this team. And you know what would have happened is, maybe they would not have been allowed to talk, as it happened to Rigathi. Maybe the president would also not have been allowed to talk. But while the Archbishop has the capacity to control the leaders, does he have the capacity to control the congregation who are seated all the way to the back of the tent? I doubt. So the fear that you could be addressing people in the front there, but at the back people become chaotic and you have no control, that will not be sending the right signals to Kenyans in terms of the president's visit to Kenya, to central Kenya. And bearing in mind that now he's planning another 1 full week visit. So this will be like a precursor, which would be now on the wrong footing, and then you have another 10 days to come and he's visiting. So I think that must have, the intelligence might have advised the president, for now, let's just stop visiting central Kenya so that they manage the region before he visits. And you know, all of us here, we have been politicians and we are senior government officials. The thing is, intelligence gathering is very critical for any leader before you go to any area, more so at the level of the president. So I said really he is free to go anywhere, just like he's free to come to our region in Ukambani. But I'm telling you that the president relies so much on intelligence. I remember the other day, we were supposed to be hosting the Ukambani region, was supposed to be hosting the Madaraka Day the other day, which is 1st June. But now it has been pushed to Homa Bay. And we have been told we lost in October. And since we are the local leaders there, when we talk to our people under the county commissioner, the security team, you can realize when those are saying the stadium was not ready, that was not the reason. It's because people are very dissatisfied. There is a lot of dissatisfaction with the way the Kenya Kwanza government has approached some of these regions who seem to be opposing the Kenya Kwanza government. That we have very deliberately been isolated in terms of visitation, in terms of development. And you know, when you isolate a whole block of voters, you don't expect them to come and they start loving with you. They will express their feelings when you are there. And that's what we are saying, really. For me, I think what is happening is that Central Kenya, as at now, are decided to quit. And the question they must be asking themselves is, and I think that's now the big question for them, since we have decided to quit and we will be quitting in 2027, because there's no election between now and 2027, do we allow the president to come and we let him with him up to 2027 because we voted for him, and that means allow him smooth sailing to Central Kenya? He comes, he visits, and we allow him to do his work and goes back? Or do we say, come on, Mbaya, we want to say it's Mbaya sahi, and it remains Mbaya up to 2027, and then he can look for other votes from other sources? I think if they answer that question, Then they can just say, okay, to us, we have made a decision. We are not in Kenya Kwanza government. We are not supporting it. We don't want anything to do with this government as from today.
Okay.
Or we allow them 2 years to come and go. They can make their promises. They can continue harassing our sons and daughters. And then come 2027, we will show them what we have decided.
Right. And it's interesting that Bwana Makali Mulu points to the importance or necessity of intelligence reports. And I'll draw your attention to the main headline on the front page of the Standard. Don't trust Raila. And this is an NIS warning to the president. After a court ruled that Azimio was a majority party in parliament, ODM began pushing for the leader of majority seat. But a warning from the National Intelligence Service stated that granting this position could empower the opposition party to pursue the president's impeachment. As a result, President William Ruto strategically backed down and opted to offer other key committee positions instead. I'll juxtapose it with the appointment of PSs. That is on the front page of the Daily Nation. And now, because the president was forced to expand the number of state departments to include 7 more without necessarily letting go of anyone. This is what one of the concerns that the Mount Kenya leaders had said, that accommodating Raila Odinga in government was going to cost the region some number of seats, especially when it comes to PSs. That must have been a direct result of some of these warnings from NIS. The president is definitely right and has the proper information on what some of his key decisions would mean for the entire country. Bwana Pugisio. At least politically.
Thank you. First of all, the Standard, as you know, and the Standard Group have been victims of this kind of headlines that they give. They have been very hot headlines. This is true, that they have actually said that. The advice from NIS has said that. But I think that the advice probably came a bit late in the day, because already the mistakes that we are seeing being done or being made here is now trying to deal with it post facto, after already the handshake and after changes in government, to allow for more new people to come in. And so the only way you can do is to take the expensive route of creating more state departments. And I think that's very expensive on the economy. But that's the only way you could solve it at this moment, because you don't want really to rattle or to shake up the system too much. Already the changes are going to be made. And I think when we saw that list of 7 new ones, speculations are rife that there's going to be another list. So let's not speak too soon about what has happened. There's going to be another shake-up. There'll be another reshuffle. It may affect PSS again, and then also affect maybe cabinet secretaries and many others, ambassadors, because there are certain things that you cannot create. You cannot create new embassies at this point. Maybe you can create them. But the truth is, there'll be some people who are going to be changed because of the nature of the fulfillment of this handshake, the details of which we don't have. There is, however, a bigger thing that's going to come, which is, as agreed, and these people, my friends here, can tell us, the NADCO report, very important. The NADCO report is supposed to be implemented to some extent to create more offices. So it's going to be very, under this economy, it's going to be a very expensive move for us to be able to settle things down in this country politically. So yeah, I mean, I can see that it's going to be a bit difficult for us as a country. Let's brace ourselves for these kind of changes. It is a political move. The aim is 2027. Anything that can cool things down and also deliver 2027 seems to be the object of all these things. And sometimes we may see even development shifting in one particular direction and shifting from other places because you want to put together a block for votes. So we will not be surprised if development shifts. We've already seen from the guys in Machakos, an event which was designed for Machakos has already moved. Mm-hmm. That was development. That was an opportunity for Machakos. It's already moved to go to the favorite places, which are now the new favorite places. So a lot of things could move like that, which is again going to bring drive a wedge between certain regions with the center. So the president is going to be having to crack his mind. The president has it's going to have sleepless nights, because you lose this, you try to gain that, and this Kenyans have become one in one aspect. Social media and the Gen Zs, you can't split them. You can't. You can try and say the Gen Zs from my favorite region. No, Gen Zs have decided they're just one tribe in this country. So it's going to be very difficult for a president to try and gather the Gen Zs. The only thing is, how do we build the peace in this country so that we can run elections and be peaceful at the same time?
Okay.
I did not like the sight of our young friend Salasya being stripped and beaten. And he's a leader in this country. It doesn't matter what he said. But if that's going to be the way we're going to push for ourselves things, then people are going to be afraid to speak and speak their mind. So we have issues that require the president to say, I need to be the president for all people, for all areas, and not for the areas that I favor. For him to at least do the last 3 years of his of leadership before the next elections. So I do hope the president goes with that kind of mindset. I want to be the president for all, whether they like me or not. I'm going to have to serve these people.
Right.
And that will help.
It is definitely a very delicate balancing act for the president. And if we may go by this headline, Bwana Mutunga, on the front page of the Standard, saying that the NIS has already told him that giving too much to Raila Odinga could be a bit risky. And him even the president opting to give him the committee positions in parliament instead. There's definitely a general feeling from leadership in Mount Kenya region that they stand to lose a lot with the entry of ODM in government. You being a leader from that area, do you share in that concern that probably your region could be losing as ODM gains more seats and more positions in government?
In the event of scarcity, there is always the interest. There is always competition for scarce resources. And anybody will feel disadvantaged if, of course, we allow for more inclusion. But what I understand our government is supposed to do, our government is supposed to develop the entire country. It's not one region. And our government is supposed to share the much or little that there is across the country. Because the essence of electioneering is getting a unifying factor with the presidency, and therefore maybe appoint ministers from all over the country, PSs from all over the country, and other, state officers. I mean, the senior officers in the government. That's my understanding, if I may say so. Reflecting from what has been happening, and by the way, this advice was given then, it's not today. This advice was given, if I may read what I've picked from the papers is that it was given that time. But I don't think, the insinuation here is that that is what the government, the speaker probably relied on to give a ruling. And but that is not the case. The case is that the ruling has its own content, and we all know. Now, coming back to Kenya, the broad-based government, and the issues that we've been dealing with as a country. What divides us is the need to be in government. Whoever loses continues fighting. Instead of accepting defeat and then moving on, and then looking for other ways and probably strategically positioning themselves as opposition, they want to continue fighting for the Bakians to get more, which is okay. There's nothing wrong with fighting, but sometimes we lose objectivity. And I like citing the bill that we lost last year. That bill, we did not lose it because it was a very bad bill. No.
Talk about finance bill.
The finance bill was not really an extremely bad idea. It was a good idea for Kenya. But then the one that we lost was the popular bill in the social media and even the mainstream media, because the mainstream media projected a totally different image. And people were unlearned, and they were fed with a lot of subversive information. Now, looking at how do we become a united country, every discussion that has ever happened in this country, every negotiation has always reflected on increased cost. There is no way you can unite the entire Kenya without increasing the cost. It is not possible. So adding 7 more PSs, if that gives us unity and enables the government to deliver to deliver its promises to the people, So be it. Look at BBI. It even pronounced more cost. The NADCO report pronounces more cost because it creates certain position. What is the driving force to all these initiatives and even the previous initiatives before we even had the constitution? It is unifying Kenya as a country to be a unitary government without any, a united people without any serious, position taken by different people.
It sounds very idealistic.
To what we had from 2007, 2008.
We don't live in utopia. You sound idealistic. You're saying about how united we should be. But there are serious concerns that ODM right now seems to be occupying too much space in the current administration. And my question to you was, do you share in those concerns that actually Mount Kenya region could suffer in some way if ODM continues to demand for more?
I think I would go back to the choice. The choice is made to come up with a broad-based government. The choice is made to come up with a broad-based government was to try and broaden the base, get more people involved in government. That was the choice that was made. And in getting more people involved, there are some dissenting voices, even from Mount Kenya. And that is why we have some casualties. We have some casualties from Mount Kenya, we have some casualties from other areas, we have some beneficiaries from other areas. But if you listen to Kenya today, it's a lot more peaceful than it was 2 months, 3 months ago. Why? Because people feel like there is inclusion. And I think we need to be asking ourselves more fundamental questions. Are we really mature as a democracy? Can we say the winner takes it all? It's not possible. There will always be squabbling. There will always... Now, the event that the Honorable Dr. Makali Mulu spoke about was the celebration that was supposed to happen in Kitui. That celebration is going to happen still this year in Kitui. I think he has celebrated Mashujaa Day. Mashujaa Day is as much of a national event as the other event was. So if the region is not ready to receive, to host this particular event, even if the stadium is not ready, maybe it tells us the stadium was ready.
We are ready.
If there are other factors therein, and it's based on such reports, if there is something that needed to be done, and probably it has just been identified as a critical issue, you wouldn't go there. First of all, you exercise precaution. You would first of all sort out the nitty-gritties before you go there. That's how to run a government, because you don't want opposition all over. Of course, you expect it. It's a stronghold. It's an opposition stronghold. You don't just go there and, assume and hope for the best. You can't do for the best when you know.
Do you get what Bwana Mutunga is saying? Do you get the hesitation to actually condemn the broad-based arrangement? On one hand, he says probably our democracy is not mature enough for us to have a winner takes it all. But he criticized a bit slightly that kind of formation, that the loser still comes back to claim more from government. But he's a bit hesitant to openly express his concerns about what the region he represents may stand to lose.
The truth of the matter is that, and we have said it many times, and actually it is the president who said it. It's not even us who are seated here. I remember in one of the interviews, I don't know which team was interviewing the president, and he said the problem with the immediate regime, which was Jubilee, was that they allowed the opposition or the minority to come into the government. And then as a result of that, they came up with a mongrel which was illegal, unconstitutional, uncontrollable, and all those many other terminologies. And he did state that then, that the Kenya Kwanza government will not be able to allow such a situation to happen again. Now, when we see Kenya Kwanza government falling into the same trap which Jubilee government was in, then the question is, who is cheating who? Because somebody must be telling us lies. And this is why we are saying, look at what has happened. ODM, who are our key partners in the Azimio coalition, they have now ministers in the Kenya Kwanza government. They have their members who have crossed over from chairing committees which are normally minority, supposed to be chaired by the minority side, and now they are chairing committees which are supposed to be chaired by the majority. Meaning they have actually replaced people who were in the majority and who are in the Kenya Kwanza government. Now, looking at the list of who has been replaced, Mutunga and I know very well, all these are people from central Kenya. People who were replaced as chairs because they are colleagues and we know them. Now, the other thing you are not addressing, and which is critical, Mutunga might be happy, ODM might be happy, but can you imagine what is happening to our colleagues? And I think you have seen what Grich is, even though Grich is not elected, what she's saying here. Can you imagine the level of betrayal our colleagues who are in the front line campaigning for Kenya Kwanza are going through? That I spend my resources, I spend my time to campaign for this Kenya Kwanza government, and when it comes to time of rewarding, then you reward my opponent who was saying you are the wrong person, and then you leave me out. So just take that picture of what is happening with our colleagues from Rift Valley, because Rift Valley is now the stronghold of Kenya Kwanza. What are they going through? Because they would have imagined we would want to be chairs of these committees, because it is our government. But what they are being told is now that now you have the presidency, you can forget about the rest. So even though they are not saying it, because if you say it, you are likely to lose your seat, you can imagine the kind of, in their own PGs, the mood in those PGs. They must be really complaining, feeling we have been betrayed. Then look at the additional PSCs. And I've said this many times. The papers are saying the estimate is about 60 million per year to get the 70 PSCs in office. But can you ask yourself, the state of the economy currently in Kenya, do we need to have additional wage bill? And the answer would be no. From any point, if you are to analyze that matter, from whichever angle you analyze, the answer is a big no. But then we go to an extent of bring them, and I like what Senator Pogisio was saying, that we are not yet done with the process. We will see more coming on board, more PSCs. Don't even be surprised to see more CSCs coming on board, meaning we are still bloating the government. And I think initially we might have lived with a broad-based government, but I don't think Kenyans are ready to live with the broad and bloated government.
Right.
That is going to be serious with this economy. And I tell you, if you go that way, then after 5 years, we might be pushing Kenya back to where it was during the time of President Moi.
Right.
The question will be, shall we have another Kibaki taking over on 2027, who can then revert those losses to become gains, and see Kenyans now enjoying a booming economy? And if that doesn't happen, then, Fred, the truth of the matter is, Kenyans must be ready for a very tight economic situation for the next possibly 10 years. And I think anybody would be worried. Because, you know, when the economy is not performing well, almost every other sector will not perform well. It is the economy, although they say politics drives the economy, it's the other way around, actually. Politics will only do well if the economy is doing well. If the economy is not doing well, and then you don't have good politics, that country is likely to go through very difficult times. And that's what we are trying to avoid. So, even as we bring these people back to the government, let's not lose track of the fact that we must care about what Kenyans are complaining every day: cost of living, high public debt, high levels of unemployment, high levels of corruption, because these remain still the fundamental issues which Kenyans need to see them address.
Okay. And still linked to that conversation about the broad-based arrangement and what comes with it, there's the issue of reconstitution of the IEBC. Starting this morning, the interviews for the 11 candidates for the position of chairperson begin here in Nairobi and will be conducted over the next 3 days. But there are concerns that now, even the selection panel, which there were so many haggles and back and forth over who selects who. Back then, ODM was not together with the president, but we managed to get their people in there. Now, with the broad-based arrangement, they are together with the president. The complaint by the other side, and that's the Azimio side, or the parties that were in Azimio away from ODM, is that now, between Raila Odinga and President William Ruto, they definitely get to control a huge chunk of the selection panel. Do you agree that that may be a serious concern going forward?
It is very easy to agree with that proposal, very easy. It makes sense. When ODM was on the other side, they fought very hard to make sure they have their own people. And then, of course, Kenya Kwanza also fought very hard to have their own people. And even the, my former party as well, Wiper and so on, fought to have this, their side of the party. Everybody's trying to have a strength and probably have a majoritarian level to be able to get the people you want as commissioners and to get the people you want to work for you, which is a very wrong thesis for a democracy. In fact, these people should, as much as possible, be neutral. They should, as much as possible, have no interest in political parties, because then they're supposed to deliver a result that is not discriminatory. But everybody's pushing to have their own as chairman, because eventually it's that chairman who's going to declare the final results of an election. So the place to start is the selection panel, so they can give you the right people and so on and so on. That is very wrong. I really feel like that attitude of looking for the people you want. But it's not strange in a political system. Every political system, even in the world, does the same. People try to have people in the Supreme Court that favor them in this court system and so on and so on. In fact, the battle in the US is usually about who appoints the Supreme Court judges. So that kind of influence is always there. And so even those who will complain, if they had a chance, they would have their own majority in there. It's not easy to just look at things and say, these people should be neutral. No. You always want to go home and sleep knowing that you have somebody taking care of your interests. And that is a political situation that's correct. So, however, I think there's also another way in which we're almost being told who is going to be elected. We're almost being told that this is going to be the chairman, and this is going to be the vice. Even before the interview started, trying to influence our minds on these matters. And that means the interest is even beyond the politicians. Even the media is involved in this. Everybody is trying to make sure that you put an image out there that tells us that we know who's going to be what and what. However, the problem with this particular time of handshake or broad-based government, is it can only work if we believe that these two parties, now joined at the hip, will go that way all the way to the elections. And that's still very doubtful. We don't know about that, do we? We don't. So if we knew that Kenya Kwanza and ODM are actually connected for the election, then you think they have an advantage over the numbers.
Yeah, the selection is happening this week. If at all the selection panel is already lopsided because of the handshake, it means that whoever will be chosen will...
But that's what I'm saying, because already everybody had already put their own persons there. It's very easy to split back and go to the previous status. Because, there's no new, this selection panel now, if everybody will be protecting their own, ODM will be protecting their own to be part of this. If they get a chairman, the other one will become vice chairman. But now that disadvantages all the other parties, because these two parties will now decide who's going to be chairman and the vice chairman because of the majority status. I think they'll also want to know how many of the commissioners themselves will be supporting this side. But on the day of splitting, because there will be a split at some point.
You anticipate a one?
There will be a split. This is not easy, by the way, to carry on with this kind of thing when it comes to the emotional thing called candidature for the president of this country. There will be a split. If not, there will be a lot of compromises. And those compromises must start now. And as we go to the future, we might start seeing the situation where you say, hey, maybe I occupy this office when we get to 2027, you occupy this one. without those compromises, I do think there'll be a split.
There's one thing on the front page of Taifa Leo where ODM is insisting that its former deputy party leader, Wycliffe Oparanya, becomes a running mate for President Ruto come 2027. But back to the IEBC issue. Do you agree that that method of getting to the selection panel is a bit messed up given our politics, that allegiances and alliances keep shifting from now and then?
We need to reflect on where did this method come from. I think the national, the NATCO report clearly specified that we need a selection panel. Opened up slightly to a bigger number and give some description of what probably could constitute a panel. That panel has been working. Now, there is absolutely nothing wrong with having interest. Politics is about interest because there must be a driver to this process. So, and it's not only in Kenya, it's not unique to Kenya and not to this particular situation. It is normal in every part of, in any part of the world. And Honorable Pogisi has pointed out a few examples. So, what we can only do now is presume. We are all drawing conclusions out of the optics, out of what we understand in terms of what is happening. But we can also reflect from history. History may inform us a little bit. We saw the Uhuru Kenyatta government forming a handshake with ODM. And they went all the way to the election. Why are we assuming that the Kenya Kwanza coalition and the ODM coalition or the Azimio will not go all the way to the end? Why are we assuming that this will not happen? These are things that we are trying to predict based on what you can see right now. But having said that, I want to underline the fact that we cannot really predict right now. This is just the beginning of. But one thing we should appreciate that it has given us a lot of peace. The country is actually quite peaceful right now, even if, of course, they are. And I want to dispute the fact that it's only the leaders from Mount Kenya who lost in terms of their positions. Other leaders also lost. We have classical examples of, like, the chairman of health. He did not, he ceded his position and somebody else was given health from the other side. So it's a matter of give and take. And this is what we need as a country. I told you, we would like to revisit our democracy. Are we really mature for that level of competition? Are we implementing our constitution as it is? Now, when it comes to committee business, I think we need to also ask ourselves, how do committees work? Whether it is ended by an opposition leader or whoever, it is not the chairman's decree. It's not the chairman's ruling. It's the committee ruling. And those committees, most of the time you find that even the people in majority may not be the ones who contribute most during the committee discussions. They may not be the ones who attend. They may not even be attending most of the time. So decisions are made by Kenyans, leaders who are Kenyans, who are talking about, thinking about Kenya and propelling Kenya and projecting Kenya in a good way. Okay. It's not really about who is who. When I look at what we do in committees, I would imagine that we actually are not necessarily biased. Apart from maybe 2 or 3 watchdog committees, the others basically do their business based on their mandate, which is very well specified in the Constitution.
All right, Bonamakali Mulu, do you have concerns about the current process of reconstituting the IEBC, given that political parties made sure they were included in how we got to the selection panel? Then now ODM moves towards President William Ruto. Do you see any concern there?
Yeah, sure I have concerns because, as Dr. Mutunga is saying, if you look at the process of nominating people to the group which is going to nominate the commissioners, well, some came from political parties, some came from the religious group, and others came from the PSC. So with that now, what has happened is with this shift in terms of where ODM has now joined Kenya Kwanza, so automatically it means the only savior we have now is the selection panel members, if they acted objectively without really thinking about who has appointed them. But in a situation where they are going to be loyal to the appointing authority or appointing group, then automatically we have a problem with that. We should have an issue of concern. And looking at history and where we have come from, and that's why we have even more, a bigger reason to have issues, is because historically you find that people who have been appointed to these selection panels have always supported the position of the appointing authority. So if that happens with this particular selecting panel now, then we have a problem. It means, because automatically, it means then the side of President Ruto and Honorable Raila will have bigger numbers in that panel compared to the rest of the teams. But I think really the Kenyans have been appointed there. When I look at the list of the selecting panel, I see Kenyans there who, if they want, can give us the best in terms of commissioners. And I think they should be informed by what we have gone through in the past with the IEBC commissioners. Because if we don't get the right commissioners for these 2027 elections, I'm not a pessimist, but I want to believe that we don't want, none of us wants to go back to the situation of 2007/08. So I think, to me, if anybody in that panel wants Kenya to move forward in a peaceful manner, as we are talking about peace and all that, they should be able to do their work objectively, give us the best commissioners who can manage our elections in 2027, and that will help even the country. Because one of the things we are facing, which is a serious challenge, we have a trust deficit in our electoral process, a serious trust deficit in our electoral process. So I want, really, we need commissioners who can start now helping us build a bit of trust with the electoral process. And if that doesn't happen, then we will be blaming this selecting panel in terms of the commissioners they are going to give us.
All right. Yes. Bonapogiso, you say that it would appear we're already being directed in a certain way, that we are being told this is going to be the chairperson. And I'm looking at the list of people appearing for the interviews today. There have been concerns that these are just the common faces we've seen. Some have issues to do with their integrity. Today, among those set to appear before the panel today are former judge of the East African Court of Justice, Charles Nyachai, former Chief Registrar of the Judiciary, Anna Madi, Chief Magistrate Abdul Kadir Lorot Ramadan, and Edward Katamangeyua, who has been identified as a person living with disability. Tomorrow, Tuesday, Kenya Power and Lighting Company Board Chairperson Joy Brenda Masinde, former Deputy Registrar of the Judiciary Kakai Kissinger, former Nairobi County Assembly Clerk Jacob Ngwele, and Erastus Ethekon, a former Turkana County Attorney. Final set of candidates, advocates Lilian Manigene, Robert Asembo, and Saul Wasilwa. They'll face the panel on Wednesday. People have talked a lot about the integrity of some of these people. Are we just regurgitating the same faces that we've been seeing? Do you share those concerns?
Well, very much so. Actually, the reason why I think, we are being directed in a way, because, when you select, for example, these two photographs to appear, and the others don't appear, I mean, you're almost telling us that these are the...
But that's a function of the media.
Yeah. But also there's been talk about almost headhunting or predetermining who is going to be. I trust the chairman of the selective council of the selection panel. He's a man of integrity. I know him very well, and I hope the rest of the team that has been given will give us the best minds. Anybody who has had issues of integrity should not be able to come and decide our elections. They already have their own baggage and issues. And so I really hope that the influence of politics, that the panel will stand strong and say this is the best we have produced from the interviews, so that we are not influenced on who is going to be. We cannot predetermine who is going to be chair and vice chair. So I do hope that, and I have nothing against the people that are there. I just think that everybody needs to get a chance. Maybe even this time, we should actually look at the people we are not used to. The people who don't jump at our faces every time. And maybe some of these other names which we don't know could make better chairpersons than the ones that we know. But, let us make sure that look at the qualifications, but also look at integrity issues. This is how you build trust. You build trust because of character. And if character is not there, and then of course, competency. You don't just do character alone, you do competency. And if you don't know these guys, let's find out who they are. And that's why NIS exists, that's why all these government agencies exist, to tell us who they are and who has what dossiers, so that we don't actually make the mistake we made in the past, where we have completely distrusted our chairpersons, even their declarations. Mm-hmm. And we've gone ahead and fought ourselves. Can we have a peaceful general election for once in this country? But it comes from identifying people who otherwise can have integrity and can stand their ground. But how do you do that? We don't just have to bring the same people that we know. You know, I see in this country sometimes we lobby so much for the same people to occupy the same spaces, and not even try new talent, people who are probably stronger in their mind than these ones we know. So I do hope that the selection panel, which for some reason I trust, should produce, surprise us, tell us, this is the reason why we have gotten somebody, not necessarily from this big tribe, and maybe even from the smaller communities, that their interests will not be as big as the other people. So let's hope, and I don't want to read too much into it, but consider for a change, integrity, competency, and make sure that the person does not necessarily have to be the one that is being taunted or being talked about all the time. That's influencing our minds. Let's give us another surprise. By the way, even for the late Chebukati, when he was appointed, it was a surprise. I mean, and this is what I'm just saying. Grow somebody into it whom we can all trust and go to bed and sleep, and knowing that our elections results will be safe.
Okay. Bwana Mutunga, do you agree that probably the media is doing what Bwana Pugisho is suggesting, that by propping some faces, probably the most that we are used to, that probably that is what we are seeing and feeling, that are we being influenced into a certain direction?
I think the Standard, in my very considered opinion, should have written on all of them. Especially the ones who are appearing today do not have an opportunity to appear in their paper tomorrow. Whether they are giving a positive or negative story, let us know, for everyone, not for a few. Or I'm saying that somebody like Abdikadir, who is also appearing today, and is called Abdul Kadir, yes.
Abdul Kadir, yes.
Yes, and also Edward Katama. Those two, we don't know anything about them. So I think if they really want to be objective and inform us, besides the negative issues that they are talking about these people, you see, there is no bad publicity. Even negative publicity is publicity. So I think this is wrong, in my very considered opinion. If they want to write about these fellows, they should analyze all of them for Kenyans to know who is actually coming for the interviews, apart from just giving us names and then pointing out at two people. Well, recycling, bringing in new faces, I would actually consider that to be important. We need a lot more of newer, Kenyans, younger Kenyans, people who we are not used to. People whose stories probably we don't know, but we can probably be appraised by the media, because you dig and get to know exactly who they are. And the other issue is the way, when you look at the list, some parts of this country don't seem to be, I don't know what criteria was by the selection panel, but I believe in the integrity of the selection panel, they may have picked the best out of the people who are applying. So this being the best, then we should not have selective treatment like what Standard has done this.
Okay. Do you share the same concern, Bwana Makalibula, that the media also needs to be very careful when we're talking about such processes that are so key?
I agree, because it might appear like the media is also campaigning for some of these individuals to be appointed and not the others. But as we say, some people might be very well known because they have held this position in the past and senior government positions. Others might have been civil servants who normally would be not really public figures who are all over the place. And in that case, I think it would be important just if we even were presented with their pictures to see who they are. Somebody like Rolot, if it's a person I know, is a very good person, and I did interact with him in my earlier life. And these are some of the career civil servants who I believe would stick with the procedures and the law, other than the ones we are seeing who are more politicians and would want to listen more to what the politicians are saying. But all said and done, there's a matter which was raised by Senator Pogisio, and it's a matter of Kenya's being told who are these people, and do they have any, in their past, do they have any issues relating to integrity issues? Because as you said, there are some of them who have been involved in having some corrupt-related cases. Others could be having criminal issues. And if that's the case, then it is important for Kenyans to know, even though what we have seen as a country is that even where these things are brought out, the appointing authorities don't seem to care. If you look at what happened with the recent appointment of CSEs, the 4 who came from the side of Azimio, you remember serious issues were raised with their past. In terms of those who are governors, a lot of issues were raised. But at the end of the day, they said that since the cases were still in court and they had not been determined, then you can't use that as a reason to deny somebody the opportunity. But the truth of the matter is, if you are really in this country, and we have so many Kenyans who have no integrity, we have so many Kenyans with no criminal case at all, why would you want to appoint somebody who already, even though the case is not determined, but there are signs? Because EACC had already prepared some dossier for some of them to be taken to court. So to me, these are the issues. Do even these reports, when we bring them out, do they matter in terms of determining who is appointed? And I think time has come, and I think that's what the young people are telling us, the generation which is a bit older, that time has come. We have gone to school. We might not have the experience, but we have the knowledge. So can you give us also a chance so that we also show you what we can do? And I think really some of them given a chance could even do better better than some of the people we are seeing here. But to me, in terms of electoral process, and I think this is what all Kenyans, irrespective of our political affiliation or lining, I think we need to think seriously about how can we build trust with our electoral process. If we get that one right, Fred, we'll have done a good service to this.
And I'll take that as your parting shot. Bonapogisio, 30 seconds for a parting shot. Yeah,
just to say that we would like to see in the situation of the elections that we get to know who these people are properly, all the candidates, especially those who have never been known. Can it be known? Just some profiling for us to know who they are, because we also do our own opinion polling. So let's have a fair situations, as my friends have said. And I wish them the best person to win, and that we might actually have a very good IEBC.
All right. Bwana Mutunga, parting shot.
The work of IEBC is very, very delicate and also extremely expensive. I think whenever we go back to court after an IEBC decision, it costs this country a lot of money within a very short time. I think it is important for the selection panel to really scrutinize who chairs IEBC and give us the best man or best lady to lead this team, so that Kenya does not necessarily have to lose in terms of money and also in terms of affecting people psychologically as they wait for the decision of the Supreme Court.
Yes. So yes, the interviews for the 11 shortlisted candidates for the position of chairperson of the Independent Boundaries and Electoral Commission, IEBC, begin today here in Nairobi. The first 4 candidates will appear before the selection panel today. This process will continue until Wednesday. Then after that, 105 candidates for the other positions of commissioners will continue. So that is one of the biggest discussion. Of course, the other one is the anticipated trip to Mount Kenya region by President William Ruto. Is he developing cold feet? It's just a question I'm asking, not saying, because the cartoon suggests that yes, he could be developing cold feet, but we have to wait and see. Thank you so much, gentlemen. That's Samuel Pugisio, who has served as Senate Majority Leader in the 12th Parliament and also as a Cabinet Minister in the Kibaki II administration. John Kanyuithia Mutunga, MP Tigania West, and Dr. Makali Mulu, MP Kitui Central, our panelists this morning on State of the Nation. After the break, Monday Blitz. It's been a very busy sporting weekend, what with the WRC Safari Rally that ended in Naivasha yesterday, and Kenya's loss to Gabon, a game that was definitely attended by a lot of Kenyans at the Nyayo National Stadium. A lot of discussions coming up. Fred Arocho Shutterboy will be in studio alongside some other panelists. Do stand by for that. My name is Fred Indemuli. Good morning.